The British Humanitarian Aid, or BHA, is a small charity based in Canterbury. What makes this charity different is that it sends parcels from clothing to furniture to Ukraine. Since 1995, the charity has sent over 180 envoys to Ukraine, but the story began when one man was inspired to help mistreated orphans.
I saw these kids on the television with all these sores in their hair or their heads. I said, if it's in your heart, then do it. And I thought, right, so I went.
The neglected and helpless orphans in the city of Sighetu Marmației in northern Romania were mistreated after the collapse of Romania's communist government in 1990. While providing aid across Romania, the BHA's founding director, Reverend Tony Budel, received an even more distressing call from Ukraine.
I got a letter from a Dr. Peter Kutsoyov, a fax, who said, I've heard about your work. I don't know how he heard about my work. We have 2,700 women and children dying of cancer-related illnesses in the city of Chernihiv in Ukraine, not far from Chernobyl. I sent back a fax and said, okay, I'll come. I believe that God directs me where to go. And we all sat down. He said, I'm sorry, said the letter I sent you. The interpreter made a mistake. We do not have 2,700 women and children dying of cancer. She missed off a zero. We have 27,000.
The BHA has since worked in Chernihiv to help the impoverished and handicapped. This region was affected by the radioactive disaster of Chernobyl in 1986. The blast in the nuclear power plant displaced hundreds of villages, contaminated farmlands, and affected many with radioactive poisoning. As the next envoy is prepared, I spoke to the founding director, Tony, with one major question in mind. What made you decide to go abroad? Why not stay in Canterbury, for example, and help people here?
In this country, we've got, I think, 6,000 charities. Probably 1,000 charities dealing with children. We're not short. We are a charitable country. It's in our psyche to help people. I wanted to go to Romania because of these orphanages, because I went in an orphanage at the age of 4.5. I was brought up in orphanages. I never knew my father. I knew very little of my mother. The only memories I have are being beaten, basically. So I felt an empathy with these kids.
The charity has since been successful. In 2014, 50 tons of aid were dispatched to Ukraine. The charity has managed a minimum of 4 lorries each year, and the aid is distributed in 22 districts through social services, schools and churches. Reg Barnes, who has been volunteering with the BHA for 10 years, spoke to me about his experience on his first trip to Ukraine. What's the first thing that came to your mind when you first went to Ukraine?
The poverty there, the deprivation, and yet the ability of the people there to want to help themselves. And because we were helping people, we also heard that they in turn, if they had any surplus, they were helping other people because they were encouraged because they had been helped. I felt blessed that I didn't live there, and I did live in England, and that I hadn't been born in the Ukraine. If I'd been born in the Ukraine, I couldn't escape.
The BHA is now facing tough times. Their monetary donations has decreased by nearly a half over the last 2 years. This slump led to spending over £12,000 above the budget last year. The BHA's acting director, Philip Edmonds, who is in charge of the day-to-day running of the charity, expressed his concerns.
One of the things I have been trying to do recently, because in my simple mind, if you have got a lot of people and you need to raise a certain sum of money, it's less per person if you can get a community. But it is remarkably hard to get people to add to what they are already doing, if they are doing things. And despite all the news about Ukraine, and despite the fact that people know that life is pretty dire there, it is very hard to get people to come on board and to help.
The British Humanitarian Aid ask for donations ranging from mattresses to toiletries and colouring books to toys, and they have boxes full. The problem this year has been the lack of lorries to transport these boxes to the people and places who need them.
Although for many years an English firm generously donated 4 lorries a year plus drivers, they, with the troubles out there, last year decided that they couldn't do this anymore, and so we have been trying to replace those. We managed to get 4 lorries out last year. The problem was that having paid that out of our savings, as it were, some money that somebody had left us in their will, we have used most of that, and this year we effectively need to find the money to fund the lorries. People are very generous with goods. You've seen yourself in the warehouse, there's plenty of stuff ready to go, and that is only part of it. We've probably got about 5 lorry loads of gear ready to ship. However, without the funding to ship it, having lost the 3 lorries, we don't know how things are going to go.
Although the BHA face an uncertain future, it seems they have positively affected many lives in Ukraine.
Привет! Меня зовут Наташа Бойко. Мне 18 лет. Я живу в Черниговской области, в Украине.
My mother was good to us, but she was murdered by her new partner when I was 16 and we became orphans. We are really grateful for the help we received from British Humanitarian Aid, but our story is just one of many that could be told by the thousands of families, villagers and organisations that receive their support.